Others. Okay, we are live. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, rabbil alamin, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Welcome to another Muslim Real podcast. Today we have, mashallah, two very esteemed guests. Let's say friends as well, mashallah, known for quite a while. And the topic I want to discuss with these two, mashallah, students of knowledge, both graduates from Medina, both studying at the same time, came back to the UK, living in different areas, and mashallah, got busy in the field of dawah and teaching. So I want to get their perspective on what's been happening over the last 20 odd years, 15, 20 years, on the issue of Muslim development. Are we winning or are we losing? Okay, because unless we do some kind of analysis, some kind of feedback, we can know what's working and what's not working. So I think there's no better people to ask about these questions. People who are on the ground, in the community, working hard. I want to get their view from their perspective. What's the vibe of the community? What issues are they facing? What are the issues that they have to tackle? And what have they seen? What are the trends over the last 15 to 20 years? So one of the first questions I'm going to ask is, obviously, mashallah, you both got accepted into Medina. What was your view or your vision when going to Medina? Do you accept going to Medina knowing that you're coming back to serve the community? And the reason why I'm saying that is, obviously, when you go to Medina, you're going there to serve the community, and you come back, you're expected, or you're going to have to carry some responsibility, and you're going to have to get busy. So when you got accepted, what was your vision in going to Medina? That you're going to study, you're going to do your hard work, and then come back to the UK and get busy. What was your kind of perspective when you first went out there? And we'll go to Mario first, and then go to Sheikh Abdul Wahid.
لا عبد الواحد first. كبر في الشيخ.
Oh, he's older than you, is
الشيخ
it?
الأكبر.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, you've exposed him now. We'll go to the older Sheikh first. Fadl Sheikh.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah. Barakallahu feekum for having me on. I know
Pleasure,
it's
Sheikh.
been a long time. We speak to each other all the time anyway. And I think I had a fruitful conversation just the other day on this topic, or on similar topics, development and stuff.
Yes.
I think it was a long time ago. It's hard to kind of remember that long ago since I was going to highlight our age.
Remind him, Mario. Remind him.
Age. You're not much
Because
younger.
did both of you go at the same time? Did you go at the same time?
It was the same time. Yeah.
Okay.
A year
So
apart,
you had a vision at the time.
At the time, I think it was a lot of enthusiasm for teaching, for dawah, for example, there's a lot of ideal, of the ummah and being united and all that stuff. That was all there, no doubt. So yeah, it was. I think when I personally myself, when I went, it was about going. It was there was two things in mind. I'll be honest. There was knowledge, there was ilm, and there was hijrah. Those two things. So ilm, as in the scholars. You want to be a student of knowledge. You want to benefit, and then there was a kind of, and you want to make hijrah as well, which is to leave the UK and go live in a Muslim country. So those two things combined were the kind of like the driving forces, knowledge being primary and then making hijrah being a secondary one, really. Together, basically,
But did you accept the post knowing that you would have to come back one day and teach? Or do you think, well, okay, I'm going to get out for X amount of years, enjoy what I can, get as benefit as much as I can, but no, I have to come back someday and help the community?
So that's why I mentioned the hijrah aspect. So it was a case of, okay, how can I get to a Muslim country? Okay, let me see what I can do to get over there. Okay, I want to seek knowledge as well, and I can't do that in the UK. I have to be in a Muslim country. That was my idea. The idea that was to seek knowledge, you have to be with the scholars in a Muslim country. So, I'm going to make hijrah to a Muslim country. But then I actually managed to apply for the Jam and get accepted there. So that became the kind of way to do both. Because obviously, I wasn't, when I went to the Jam, I was 25. I was a mature student. I did uni here as a mature student. So
Yes.
both those things where I had married, stuff like that. So it was not like I was 18 going to the Jamia like most people. Most people go in there 18, 19. Apart from, if you want to say most, that's the normal thing, isn't it? 18
Yes.
or 19, you go to the Jamia. Because it's a university, that's university age. So I went at 25. So you can imagine 25 is when most people are kind of thinking, okay, they're working for, their career starting off, their job starting off, So I started off in the family aspect, with work-wise and money-wise. I was already working part-time. But
Okay.
you see what I mean? So it was a kind of a thing of, at 25, I'm going there thinking hijrah. So I
Yes.
wasn't necessarily thinking I'm going to come back, if I'm going to be honest with you. Although I was thinking, yeah, I'm going to benefit people, but not necessarily coming back.
Okay.
That
Okay.
was my take on it, type of thing. Mario, about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, when Sheikh Ismail mentioned that question, and you mentioned about going there to seek knowledge and then coming back, I just like, and then you answered. It just I had the same sentiment. So when we were younger, there was that atmosphere of seeking knowledge, talab al-ilm, being with the ulama, that the usual sentiment. And given da'wah was always like a thing people did anyway, because we had hamas, we had a zeal. But if I'm honest, and I think from what Abdul Wahid was saying as well, there was a bit of a selfish element to the whole thing, because it was about us seeking knowledge, because we wanted to seek knowledge, because we wanted the knowledge, we wanted to have the knowledge,
Yes.
benefit ourselves. It wasn't like, yeah, I'm going there to learn to come back to teach. That was there, but the primary goal was for us to learn knowledge. So hence why we went to faculties that we were interested in. Hence why we attended lessons outside of the Jamia or the Madinah that we were interested in. So it was. I don't mean selfish in a bad way, but I mean it was a individual decision and choice. And specifically for me, I did always want to give da'wah, but I didn't want to live in England. That's definitely. It wasn't like a permanent thing.
So what faculty did you study? Did you do the same faculty or different?
We both did Sharia.
Okay.
So because I in 2006, because we both graduated in 2008.
Yes.
By 2006, I came back on summer holiday and I did an Arabic summer school, intensive Arabic, and I did it again in 2007. So I kind of got this taste of coming back, engaging with people, teaching, bringing some of the stuff that I had learned to the UK, and I would say that
Did you enjoy
me the vision and the drive to do that for a while. I didn't intend to do it for long. I intended to do maybe 10 years max.
Okay.
Come back, set up some stuff, teach some students. Maybe they'll get to a certain level and then they'll go teach others. That was the vision and the drive.
Yes.
And my wife wasn't really into that. She was like, "No, I want to stay here. I want to stay in Medina. What are we leaving for?" I'm like,
Is faculty of Sharia the most suitable subject to study if you are returning to the West for the intention of dawah? What do you think is the most suitable faculty if you're gonna go and come back?
I mean, it's hard to really say because I've only had one perspective, isn't it? We've only met to one faculty, so I mean, it's definitely more suitable than the faculty of lugha, of language, that's for sure.
Okay.
And but the thing is, I can see merit in all of them. I can see merit in Quran. I can see merit in Hadith. I can see merit in Da'wah. I don't think that. And also, you have to remember, in our day, all of the faculties had a core which they all had anyway. They all had Tawheed, they all had Tafsir, they all had thing. But we just specialized and did more of some things. That's all.
Did they all have a subject of da'wah running through the courses? Or
all of them had da'wah, but the faculty of da'wah had more da'wah.
Yes.
So we had da'wah modules as well. So we all had some things. But we had so it's unlike, for example, if you might think of like a university in the UK, when like you have science, you have different subjects, they're very different. Over there, you had basically 5 faculties. They all have a kind of a unified core that everyone has to leave and know. And then they all specialize in different things. But back to the question about the issue of the community and coming back. Yeah, near the end, some students definitely didn't want to come back, and that's why they stayed.
Okay.
Some students came back because they had to anyway. They couldn't stay. And some wanted to come back temporarily or permanently, but everyone was different. Me personally, because I had that taste of teaching and that interaction and that buzz, that kind of brought me back. had that whole ambition. And then I guess we can talk about what happened after that in further questions. But
yeah,
but that was
I'm putting, is there an expectation from the Jamia that you come back and teach your people? And
always,
do they give you any instruction, any tarbiyah as to what you might be facing when you do go back? Is there any preparation?
100%. And that's why even when I was coming near to the end, a lot of the students, teachers, gave specific advice about returning back. So one of the advice I always carry from one of my teachers, and I always tell people about it, is that he said that when you return, connect yourself with the people of different different avenues of the community. So get to know your lawyers, your doctors, your accountants, because you know knowledge of Sharia, and they know their knowledge. Just because you know Sharia doesn't mean you know all knowledge. And I think that's what some people they misunderstand. They think that because we're graduates of Medina, we can solve all problems. We're not accountants. We're not financial advisors. But
I think you're expected to be. We think you are. We think you can cover all bases. That's the thing.
No, we can't. So, but they said my teacher said, look, connect yourself with people, professionals in different fields, so that you can draw from their knowledge. As you and then add that to your knowledge that you've learned here. So it's about combining the Sharia with other ulum that is relevant to living, I guess.
Okay, how would you both summarize? How would you summarize your experience in Medina in regards to your learning, meeting other students, and then we'll go into Shuk. How was your experience like in Medina? If you could summarize.
Me or
Abdullah, Fadl Sheikh.
I think for myself, for me, obviously, like I said, when I went over there, I was 25 anyway, so I was there with my family, like Mara and a lot of the other, quite a few other brothers actually from the UK. They go over there. They're already, they're married there. So, to me, it was kind of like it's just you're not. I'm there as a student studying, but also there's a person living. So I'm working part time in the summer. We're doing family outings. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And at the same time, you're also obviously. I think one thing is really important. If I'm going to summarize the experience, I think there's an important thing which every single Muslim who's either a convert or a Muslim that's brought up in the UK, so a second generation Muslim, there's learning Islam and there's living Islam, if that makes sense. So, for example, what I mean by that is, for as long as you're in the UK, there needs to be a moment where you go and you live in a Muslim country, whether it's your own country where your parents are from, Pakistan or whatever, for example, Bangladesh, or for example, Africa or wherever, or you go to another country like an Arab country, for example, whether it's for 3 months to do a Quran program in Egypt or Arabic program in Egypt. I think that's really important. So you get a sense of being in the environment.
Yes.
The environment that you learn a lot about Muslims and Islam in the environment.
More than books, you could say.
Yeah, which is more than books. The lived experience, basically, which you won't get in the UK. I mean, you've traveled, isn't it? So you've lived in Egypt, alhamdulillah, for a long time, and so I think that's really key. So that's the takeaway that I'd say to anyone, which is make sure you go and live in a Muslim country, and then you're gonna then when you come back, you're gonna start to see things a bit differently. Your perspective changes somewhat. Do you get what I mean? That's one of the impacts. One of the benefits, I guess. The takeaways. Obviously, Saudi is an amazing country. You've got as it pertains to knowledge. So, for example, it pertains to knowledge and scholars and the amount of scholars and the amount of students of knowledge, especially at that time and before, it's in a way kind of unparalleled. It's at the top basically. The other example I always give, I think mine has been cut out somehow. It's been dropped.
His internet has gone or something. But no worries.
Yeah. The other important thing I think is the blessing. That's the blessing of that environment. So you got the environment of a Muslim environment generally that everyone needs to experience that, and they've got the environment of the best place for learning, right? So the comparison I always give is that Medina, in terms of some people can conceptualize, not that I'm comparing two universities but if people say, oh, the best universities, people start thinking about Cambridge, Oxford in the UK, right? The Oxbridge lot, right? And everyone's like, wow, he's from Oxford. When it comes to universities holistically, then Madinah Islamic University is, in my opinion, the best university in the world. The reason why, if you look at Cambridge and Oxford University in the UK as an example of, so university, it's got the best teachers, it's got the best research departments. It's the city's a university city. Medina is the same in our time in the sense that it has the Islamic University of Medina, and you have students coming from every single country in the world. So you have every culture, and you have all of basically the best teachers, right, to a degree. More so in the past than there is now, in the sense that in the past you had the likes of Sheikh Mohammed al-Amin Shanqiti was there, you had the likes of Sheikh al-Albani was there. They picked the best teachers from around the world and brought them there as well.
Okay.
Right? So so as a city in the Mamlaka, it's unlike, for example, Qasim or these other places, there's more diversity because you've got students from everywhere. Malaysia, China, Japan, Turkey, in Bangladesh, Pakistan. You can keep going. It's almost like it's almost like the globe in one place.
Okay.
And they're all there to do what? They're all there seeking knowledge. They're all students, right? So they're all it's a university environment, exams, studying, revising. So there's nothing like it in terms of, I guess Azhar, people say Azhar might be similar. I'm not sure how much similar in terms of the makeup of the different people coming to study there. But I'm not sure if they have such a multicultural, multinational type of intake in terms of students.
Okay.
Like Medina does. Right. So that's I guess my two things I'd say, that the community, like being in a Muslim country, and the secondly, knowledge again. No.
Excellent. So, mashallah, you've done your studies and you're coming back to the UK to serve now, because obviously it was supposed to, you wanted to do hijrah, that didn't work out. You got returned to the back to the UK to serve the community. Or is that the mentality that, because when we see students of knowledge come back to the UK, we receive them like, yes, Sheikh Abdul is here, Sheikh Mari is here, we're going to call their phone, can you do this? I've got this issue, I've got that issue. Were you ready for that position, and did you understand the gravity of that position in regards to serving the community? Or is it like, well, I need to get a job, I need to get myself on my feet? How do you get that balance, and how did you deal with that coming back into the UK and people's expectations of you guys?
I mean, from my perspective, like I said, because because of those Arabic classes I had started in 2006 and 2007, when I dropped into the UK, I landed with my mind laser focused on that, and I was trying my best to build on that. So I was focused on that heavily, working literally like 7 days a week. And I would say in hindsight, looking back, because I think because I was young and it was new, I guess it was exciting. I guess it was also personally rewarding, engaging with students, seeing them grow, seeing them learn language. And more, I guess I can really share this one. More importantly, when you're teaching, the knowledge is different than just learning. As in, you're learning something, it's exciting, it's new, but there's sometimes more insight you get from repeating.
Yes.
Even like I was engaged in something over the last couple of days with my wife and other activities, and just today I was walking, doing our normal morning walks, going over what happened the last couple of days, just repeating the events the last couple of days back to each other, revealed things that I didn't realize at the time. If you can imagine, so it's just like when you repeat things, even like for example, maybe you learned some tafsir of the Quran. We had tafsir in Medina. We revised for the exam. You took the exam. You come back to the UK. You're now teaching that knowledge that you literally learned and put into the exam, but somehow repeating that, you gain more insight.
Yes.
Maybe something clicked in your head about life, about relationships, about family, about society that you didn't click when you were in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe a student asked you a question, and then you sifted it through your memory banks, all you had learned, and you found the connection between the question and the answer that you didn't necessarily think of when you yourself were in the classroom. So that was really exciting, and it really helped to distract me from the damage from being here.
I mean, do you think that the fact that you were teaching Arabic is one of the essential subject that the Muslim community must learn? Like, you could have taught another subject. You must say, okay, you fiqh, you got aqidah, you've got tafsir, but as a fundamental, the essential of teaching Arabic, is that one of the reasons why you said, right, let's do Arabic? Because the community, they can't understand the Quran and the Arabic and the Sunnah in its language. They're going to be going through translations. If you want to draw close to Allah, you actually really need to learn the language.
Yeah, I
From a
mean,
development
my
purpose
view
point
then,
of view.
and my view then, and it's still today as it is that when you learn about Islam, I do believe there will always be a ceiling to how much you can really grasp until you learn Arabic. So I mean, you could definitely learn Islam and have a good understanding of Islam.
Yes.
No doubt about that. But I think it'll be a natural ceiling to how deep the knowledge can go and what connections you can draw when learning about Islam. So essentially, my attempts in focusing on Arabic was to allow people to heighten their ceiling. So maybe then where they can get is here. By learning Arabic, that means they can now get here if they wanted to. If that makes sense.
Yes.
They can access the qawa'id, they can access fiqh, they can access different things. Now, for example, I taught like last year a book of fiqh or Hanbali fiqh on like salah and hajj and transactions and whatever. And I used Dalil al-Taib, which is a book on Hanbali fiqh from the Arabic. So we're able to definitely learn this subject, but still, even though I'm able to translate the lesson and they're able to get the understanding, there are still things that words used, expressions used that are lost in translation. So that was kind of, so it's not essential to be a Muslim and learn your Tawheed, but it is essential to excel or to go higher places, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I think for myself, I'm going back to the question again, just to kind of reiterate it, and it's to do with the expectations of the community or to serve the community and the stuff that you think that will come up.
I mean, so for example, you had to come back. You've landed back in London. Are you kind of thinking, okay, what's my next step? Did you expect people to keep ringing your phone, do a khutbah here, do a dars here, or you're like, well, I'm ready for whatever they throw at me, kind of thing?
Yeah, I think I think there's two things. Starting off with what my hour ended on, which is the Arabic language. I had the same kind of let's say I like not an ideology. What's the word? Ideal that everybody's going to learn the Arabic language. We're gonna reinvent how Arabic is taught. Yes. We're going to kind of do what the British Council did to for example, non-Western world, which is use the language to introduce people back to the
Islamic culture through the language.
Exactly, the language and stuff like this.
100%. Yeah.
And the thing is, it's needed and it's true. However, like in secondary school, right, language is a subject that most people get the worst grades in, right? Because it's inherently difficult from the off, right? It takes a lot of patience, a lot of time. People are quick, so it's hard, it's difficult, but it's still necessary. Why I say that? Because my idea was this: look, people hijack the religion, right? However, by putting a barrier, i.e., for example, by putting a barrier between you and the text.
Yes.
That barrier isn't the scholars; it's the understanding of the language. What I mean by that is we don't say you can't. You have to understand the text. You have to be a scholar. No, we say to interpret the text, you have to be a scholar. That's true. But to understand the statements of the scholars in that interpretation, you need the Arabic language because they're going to explain an Arabic text. right? Which is the Quran and the Arabic language. And if you depend upon translations, right, you're going to the translations, they're full of mistakes.
Or the translator,
Or the translator, exactly. So this is the other issue. So part of it was two things. The translations could be are generally got mistakes. I mean, when I was teaching the class the other day, one of the hadith was translated to use the word should, right? But it's a command in the hadith that should be must. Should in fiqh, should means recommendation, must means obligation. If you read it as should, if you're just reading the English and you can't look at the Arabic and make a little bit of a comparison based upon basic grammar, you're going to think, okay, this is a recommendation. If you want to start interpreting yourself, you're not supposed to anyway, but you might do that. Right? But if it says must, you now understand obligation. So there's that aspect, the language, the translations, and you see that. I always do this exercise with the students. We're going through tafsir of the Quran. I always say, okay, let's look at the English. We put up 5 different translations of that verse, and you can see the different words which are used and how they bring across a different understanding, a different meaning. Which one's the right one? If you're only reading in English, you can never kind of work it out. But if you've got knowledge of the Arabic, at least you can start doing that type of kind of delving a bit deeper. That's from the text. And then there's, like you mentioned, the translator. You're now you're hostage basically to what the translator.
You're at his mercy.
You're at his mercy completely. So he's going to spin it, and you won't know otherwise, and you take it as basically, for want of a better word, gospel. That's what the Sheikh said, that's what that person said, and then all of a sudden you're now saying, we're with the scholars. This is what the scholars say. No, it's not what the scholars say. It's what the person's put a spin on what the scholar said, because you're unable to now listen to what the scholar says. Do you get what I mean? And then on top of that, you start propagating that and start calling names based upon that. And before you know it, do you get what I mean? So there's that aspect that I thought, okay, let's teach people the Arabic language to remove this kind of this barrier and this danger. The second aspect of serving the community, where I think, and it might tie into the question of how we've developed as a community, I think that the community or the infrastructure for graduates or students who are not coming back, it doesn't exist in the West as much, or it didn't exist as much back then as it does now. There's a slight improvement, but nowhere near as much. What I mean by that is, I can name graduates that came back at our time had the most amount of hamasa, like they had the most energy to give dawah, to get right in on the grassroots level, to educate people, remove ignorance. But what wasn't there? The infrastructure wasn't there to facilitate that for them. So they didn't find, for example, a community that was saying, okay, we've got a job where you're able to earn a good enough living, a good enough wage, so you can just give dawah, for example. That wasn't there. Right? No one was giving them a job in the imam. There was no jobs in, for example, in schools, for example, or there wasn't basically
a support base. I mean, this is a fundamental question. If we, as the followers, as the the community, we're screaming development, but yet we're not looking to support our students of knowledge.
Exactly. So this was a dynamics of the dilemma. So, but worse than that, that's not okay. There wasn't any job, but at the same time, and this is something which I don't think. Obviously, it's a case of the country you live in, right? If you're in a Muslim country and come back with a Sharia degree or any degree in Islamic sciences, there's going to be a kind of civil servant type of route for you where you can get a job, for example, in administration, and a judge, or in a court. You get a job as an academic, as a lecturer. I.e., there's a kind of where you're able to continue teaching, right, and giving dawah as well as
and develop,
So, and you need to be able to do that so you can have a family, so you can pay rent. Or buy a house, for example, for those that want to actually save up money and actually buy a house, cash or whatever. You need to be able to do that. Worse than that, not just that wasn't there, but I think another dynamic was there was that mentality of, okay, like you said, okay, we want you to be on call 24/7 to answer our problems, for example, right? Because that's your job, you're supposed to, or not,
come back to serve. You've done your
serve. To serve. Come here, I give a talk there. Go there, do this there. Go there, do that there. At times which were in the middle of the day, for example. So you can't necessarily do another job and do that because your working hours would be 9 to 4. So the infrastructure is not there, and on top of that, the expectations were there for you to, and this is for most people. I'm saying that talking on behalf of others. as you know, in my situation specifically, personally, alhamdulillah, it worked out where I came back and there was a new masjid that we established called the United Kingdom.
Yes. Yeah.
So it kind of, the timing was
good.
kind of, it was good. Right? It was local. It was in the area. I had a bit of blowback from Brixton because of but outside of that, it was okay for me. But I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about for graduates.
Yes. Okay. So
knowledge.
Yeah. So can we kind of put a nukta here that if we are looking at issue of development going forward, then if we want to put on responsibilities on our students of knowledge and our teachers, there needs to be an instructor to support them. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm always calling you, can we do this? Otherwise, can we do this? And you're like, listen, I need some time out. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we need to actually kind of respect when our students of knowledge say, I need some time out. And we're thinking, what's my man doing? He should be here to serve. What's the balance, Mario? How can we get the balance so that students of knowledge can do their work and the community can get served?
I think one way to think about it is that a doctor, they're important for the community because doctors deal with our health.
Yes.
But we all know that GPs close at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
So, do you see my point? As in,
yeah,
they work like 9 to 5, like the rest of the world. They don't work from 6 to 11 at night. So, put that into perspective. When I first graduated and I started my Arabic courses,
oh man,
my classes were probably, we had classes Monday to Sunday, and besides Saturday and Sunday, the weekday classes were always, when I first started, my weekday classes used to finish at 10, sometimes 10:30.
Yes.
Now, why is that? Because those who want to study go to work. So when they finish work, they come to your class. Maybe the class is at 7, so you get 7 to 9. Maybe you get 8 to 10. If you want to go really deep, maybe you get 7 to 10. But as me and Adwaid always repeat to ourselves, these are unsociable hours.
Yes. So
a da'i doing his education is not sustainable at those hours all the time. And this is where I said that when I made that hint in my comment earlier on, that the hamas, the zeal that I had in teaching, especially at the beginning, and the rewarding nature of that being able to continue learning, continue teaching, continue being in the knowledge, distracted me from the damage it was doing.
Got you.
When I say damage, I mean everyone else goes home to their children and it's time with their family,
and you're still there.
Going out, I'm teaching.
Yeah.
And it took me a few years to realize that reality. So I'm not regretful. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that as a da'i, and I'm sure Wahid will attest to this, as a da'i, it does take a toll on us more than what people recognize or even want to recognize. I think it's probably as taxing as being a doctor on call until early hours of the nighttime and coming at home at night, collapsing in a bit. I mean, it is. People think that we know it's like that. People think that was fun. Yeah, we're going da'wah, we're fighting the kuffar with our words, and we're giving ayahs and hadith.
Yeah.
Bruv, you're in your bedroom at 11 at night and you're getting calls. Bruv, this happened. What is it halal? I'm like, are you serious? I'm in bed.
Got you. I mean, I think we laugh, but I think it's very, very, very important because.
But what the thing is, it's even funny because I remember clearly myself managed to get all the numbers of the mashayikh. I don't know if Abu Wahid has had the same experience. You get a number of a sheikh, and you're excited because, mashallah, you got direct access.
Yes. So
you send a text message, thinking you're gonna get an answer, and you're like, 1 day passed, 2 day passed, 3 day passed, you don't get an answer. You're like, why is the sheikh ignoring me?
Yeah.
Fast forward 10, 20 years, I get messages. I'm like, you're
ignoring them.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
I've been at work since 9 in the morning, and now it's 9 at night. And I'm getting messages, and I can't. You get what I'm saying? It's basically my point in saying this is that the need, but in conclusion, the need the community has for qualified individuals in the Islamic sciences is intense, and
Yes.
it really, with all the graduates that come out, there still isn't enough. There really isn't enough that we have to cater for it. And as Abdul Wahid indicated, it's not organized enough to really capture that to capture it. So, for example,
Okay.
if you can imagine we had like a team of 50 people, yeah,
Yes.
just 50 men, and of those 50, 5 of them were graduates.
Mm-hmm.
So that means 45 are non-graduates.
Mm-hmm.
That means you have 45 people who can actually deal with and maximize those 5 people. Does that make sense? You have 45 people who can take calls, take down notes, deal with all the other things,
Mm-hmm.
and then maximize the time of the da'i.
Yes.
However, what we do have is that one da'i doing the job of the 45.
Okay. On that point, one, the benefit of having structured learning vis-a-vis having learning, I don't know, sitting under a scholar and learning that way. In this context here, where we're talking about a job, using your time between, I don't know, 8 or 9, between 9 and 5, being organized. Do you think, are they the same in that kind of paradigm? Like, well, okay, if you're going to serve like a job, this is a job, you need to be a graduate? Or can you just say, well, okay, anyone who's got some knowledge can fill that role? Do you get my point?
Yeah.
Like who should we, if we're going to say, well, okay, we need students of knowledge to benefit the community between this time and that time, is it better to have someone who's gone for a program, or if you're self-taught, you can kind of do the same thing? Do you need to have a structured learning in order to be this kind of 9 to 5 da'i or imam or whatever?
I think there's so if we go back to the many roles that we
Yes.
speak about, so again, if you look at an example is in a Muslim country, usually you have the person that does for example, marriages is not necessarily the sheikh that teaches the lessons. That's a separate job. I forgot what they call them over here, but they have a similar thing where a person's got a license to do marriages, right?
Yes.
Doing a nikah is a very straightforward thing, generally speaking, in terms of the process of it or the procedure. It's very straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
But however, it seems to be it has to be an imam that does it. So we don't have the system. We can say, okay, these people are licensed to do nikahs because they know the rulings of nikah. The imam who leads the salah isn't necessarily the same person that does for example, is not always, unless it's like the main masajid. The imam is not usually the qadi.
Yes,
the one
who does masail, fiqh masail or something,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the qadi isn't necessarily the person that lectures at universities in most cases.
Yes.
Right? Where in the UK, the person that's a qualified, or let's say student of knowledge or scholar or whatever sheikh, ustad, whatever term you want to use, it doesn't matter. You pick your term, the mufti, whatever. The result's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
He's now called upon to do nikahs,
mm-hmm.
as well as to do the lectures, as well as to do resolve issues between family issues,
people,
maybe,
yes,
as well as to do be in the salah, to be in the masjid, for example.
Yes.
Now that's just that. On top of that, for him to actually, tie these all in properly, he also has to now make sure he's got a public profile also as well, that he has to record, upload. But there's a lot of stuff. This is the 45 people that I was talking about. The other stuff, do the admin, appointments, make sure he's on his calendar properly. He's doing it because he doesn't have someone doing that for him.
Yeah.
Right? You can't let someone. They can't agree to something and then double book and forget. That's not acceptable. You can't agree to something and then not turn up because you're running late.
Your reputation's at stake.
Huh?
Yes, your reputation's at stake.
Your reputation's at stake, and you're just not good to let people down, right? So it's quite a lot, but and like going back to the infrastructure thing. Why I mention that? Because it seems to me, I don't know, I haven't been to America, but it seems to me America, I mean, they're generally ahead anyway in terms of, as a Western country, in terms of infrastructure for, you know, I don't know what generation, 4th generation, 5th generation Muslims, but it seems to be they're more from this angle, from the angle of having infrastructure, having, you know, let's say homegrown, qualified imams from amongst the people that have, you know, done the training, whether it's in the Jamia or somewhere else, like you mentioned. It doesn't have to be, for example, qualified from the Islamic University of Medina. It's possible it's possible a person can get to a good level without traveling. They would have had to study a curriculum. There's no doubt about that. There's nothing that I have no doubt whatsoever in my mind that a person cannot be a student of knowledge, or cannot be a ustad or sheikh or scholar, or whatever word you want to use again, mufti, unless he goes through some type of structured training. It's not possible. It's not possible. You cannot possibly just teach yourself, right? You have to go through different books, different subjects, different sciences, taking that from a teacher, right? Who's recognized exams, go through. There has to be a process that you go through to get to that. It's not possible otherwise. And all that does it without going through a method of studying. And like I said, it doesn't have to be the Islamic University. I mean, it could be another ma'had or dar or you know, but there still has to be a process where you can say, okay, that's why if someone comes, if they're teaching, for example, or they could, okay, what books have you completed and how many times have you completed them, right? And with who? So if someone comes to teach at Medina College, for example, you know, one of the things I'll say is, okay, you know, you can teach Islamic studies. Yes, I can teach Islamic studies. Okay, tell me what books you've studied. You know how many and when, how many times, and once they tell me what books they studied, then I'll ask them questions about those books to see if they studied them when they're talking about madrasa days, when they just did it once and threw away their exam papers afterwards. We've actually studied them, and I've been teaching them since. So the first thing is what have you done? It's not what are your qualifications, what have you studied, more importantly, and also have you been teaching since then to find out if you're qualified. Right, because I do believe that if you study something and you teach, if you're qualified to teach it, but you need to teach it to get the experience in teaching. Right?
Okay, I'm gonna another question. Yeah.
So before you go to another question, I just want to just touch on that last word that Abdul Wahid mentioned as well. Is that as me and Abdul Wahid been friends since 2000, and maybe it's like before that, even 1999, is it, or 2000?
Yeah, 99.
So that's 20 years.
MashaAllah.
So. And I want to highlight that when we graduated at 2008, and now we're in 2023. You mentioned about this idea of studying and graduating, or from a particular place and whatnot. I have to also add and emphasize and underline and get a highlight to the last word Abdul Wahid mentioned, and that's experience.
Yes. I
would say that graduating is just the beginning. Since 2008 until we are now, both Abdul Wahid and myself have grown so much just by being here, doing the work. So it's not just about the graduation. The graduation gives you the keys. It's also about the experience. Experience also adds into that, because experience is your, you can say the experience. That's your or your life, your time with the knowledge. Is about applications. It's about applying. It's like anything. Like like any doctor. Would you go to a junior doctor or someone who's been doing medicine for 20 years? It's basically like that. If you just, any question you have about talab al-ilm and scholars and whatnot, change the word talab al-ilm, mufti, whatnot. Change it to doctor. Change it to surgeon. Change
Professor.
it to it's the same thing. You have a lawyer who's been there for 10 years and a lawyer who just graduated. Same thing. Just think of a talib as just being the same as any old profession. And this is where I'm now in my 40s. This is where the advice that ulama gave Abdul Wahid and myself when we were there in Medina is to stick to the akabir, stick to the elders.
Yes.
We understood why, but now we understand a lot more why.
Yes. So
question.
So being at this age now, I'm gonna actually I'm gonna come later and say, would you now do things differently? Are there things you did when you just came back? Obviously, maybe at this age now you do them differently. But well, I'm going to come to that question a bit later on. So now, in order to get on this thing of development, in order to for the next 20 years to be better, what does a relationship, in order to get the most out of the students of knowledge, and also to get the quality time, what needs to be done going forward? Should the community see you guys as your phones open 24/7 for us to call you, or should there, can you put a system in place to say, okay, if you want to maximize our time, then check me between this time and that time? And another issue which is going to come up is the issue of money. The fact that some people might say, well,
this is the first part first.
Go on.
So
because I want to encapsulate this thing in the area of development, how we can get the best out of you and how best you can serve. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I mean, I think all problems have multiple ways of attacking it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's one solution for everything. I think there's multiple solutions for individual problems, and I think one of the first things as Muslims, anyone who's hearing this or listening to this or wants to contribute or do something like that, the first thing we need to understand is that because there are multiple solutions, we should allow people, not that we stop anyone, but we should recognize that people or the community need to explore multiple options to get the most out of the community. As in, what I'm trying to get at is we shouldn't have a polarizing approach to problems, saying that if only we all did this, our problems are solved.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that's the case. I believe that we have problems. I feel it could be approached this way, and those who agree can help me in this.
Mm-hmm.
Others may have other approaches that may also work, and I think collectively, if we all attack things from multiple angles, I think we can achieve the similar goals. I.e., I have an approach, Abdullah has an approach, you have an approach. It may coincide, it may be different, and I think that's fine. I think that's actually good because sometimes, for example, if imagine we all tried to have the same approach. We're unified underneath the banner, Salafiyya, Da'wah Salafiyya. We're all on the same manhaj. I'm not calling for multiple manhaj, by the way. Just to clarify the word. I'm not saying we have multiple manhaj. I'm just saying, if you all try to say we all must unite underneath one name and do one thing, imagine that one thing was wrong. As long as what you're doing is halal and you're trying your best, the fact that we're trying multiple options, maybe 5 out of the 10 attempts would work. That's great.
Yes.
This is why I find Sahaba did different things. Some stayed in Medina, some traveled, some engaged in jihad, some engaged in other. But the Sahaba didn't all become Tulab al-Ilm in the masajid.
Yes.
Some became Muzara, some became governors. So I think Muslims need to understand that there are multiple ways of achieving similar goals. If they're all halal, that's perfectly fine. I may have an opinion that one might be better and whatnot, but that's one thing that we need to do as Muslims. We need to expand the scope of what can be done, as long as it's within the remit of what is permissible to be done, obviously. But as my personal approach about maximizing the resources of the Tulab, I think we need to engage more with technology in the sense of how we can use that to maximize things. Meaning, I do love the approach of having lessons in the masajid where we gather together in a location. There's a social element. There's that, sitting down on the ground, as the old traditional stuff. Like you go in Medina, you got masjid, the sheikhs in the masjid. You just sit around the halaqah. You have your little notepad and you write. I would love to go back to that sometime. I would love to do that like I used to.
Yes.
But we also have to recognize that there are sometimes, it may be at some point, there are more efficient ways of doing the same thing. Maybe you could do both. For example, wouldn't you like to study with Sheikh Abdul Razak Al-Abbad, Sheikh Al-Abbad's son? You're in London. How are you going to study with the Sheikh? Wouldn't it be lovely if the Sheikh could do a dars and we could attend online? Wouldn't it be lovely that you can send a message to a platform and the Sheikh can come every day, look at the list of messages, him and other Mashaykh. Imagine we had a single platform where the Mashaykh across the globe can just come when they want, choose the questions they want to answer, and then answer the questions, and it gets done. I mean, it would be nice if we could do that.
Yes.
Rather than me getting the Sheikh's private number and messaging him at odd hours.
Yes.
How about there's a platform that doesn't necessarily irritate him specifically. He just logs in, he wakes up in the morning, has his breakfast like he normally does. You know, then goes to work, sit down, rest himself for a bit. 10 o'clock, opens the laptop. Let me see what questions I got. Bash for an hour. Kill out 30 questions, and then do other things.
Signs off and then goes home.
Signs off and goes home. Yeah, excellent. And imagine him doing that, plus 50 other mashayikh across the world doing that. You're now doing now rather than 30 questions, you're now doing 1,000 questions in an hour. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the approach I may take. Others may have other approaches. I think we can have different approaches. But yeah, I think Muslims is now engaged with that technology a bit more.
Question of the Wahid.
Yeah.
If sorry,
can I just hold the question? I just want to answer the previous question. Is it the same question or a different one? So I can maybe just add on to what Maui was mentioning.
Yeah, just add on to what Maui was saying. I can't remember the question.
With regards to kind of like so there's something called brain drain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is which is when, I mean, it's obviously when someone can't find their work for their level in their country where they are, they'll just go somewhere else where there's better opportunities, right? Yes. People need to work. They need to earn a living, basically.
Yes.
And the problem we have in the UK, generally speaking, for graduates of Islamic universities, or du'at in general, whether they're Islamic university or none, is that there isn't, like I said, there isn't a kind of they don't fit in. It's not a Muslim country, right?
Yes.
So it's not a career path. I can train to be a GP. I'm going to get a job. I can train to be a doctor, dentist, engineer, even a teacher, whatever. You can keep going. The list can keep going, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Retail or management, whatever. But in the UK, you can't if you train to be, with all the Darul Ulooms and all those other schools, right? If you train to be, the most you can train to be is an imam, right? An imam in a masjid, and that's probably the equivalent pay of a retail job, right? Even though you end up with the equivalent amount of study and qualification as a lawyer, your pay is the equivalent of working in retail. Minimum wage, roughly, right? If it's minimum wage, because of how the hustles go, because there's a bit of a hustle and a bit of a back. There might not be minimum wage even. Putting that aside, so what happens to a student? They come back, and then they get a job offer in the Middle East, right? Tax-free, accommodation paid for, flights paid for them and their family in an Islamic country, Islamic environment. Why are they going to stay in the UK? Oh, well, because they have to serve people. They have to serve their family before they have to serve anyone else. They have to be able to feed them, right? They're gonna lose their family because they're never at home because they're teaching in the evenings and stuff like that. So you end up with a situation where you end up with an equivalent from people from developing countries coming to the UK because there's equivalent pay for their level of skill, for example. You find the funny thing is, students of knowledge will do the same thing, but go to they'd leave a developed country
to go to a developing country
because they're going to get better opportunities, right? In terms of what they'd get in the UK. So that's the issue. How do you address that? I think it takes a lot of different ways, right? Like I said, it's an infrastructure way. There has to be, number one, some type of, or there should be, the idea to develop an awqaf system.
Yes.
Right? So there's a book called The Rise of Colleges, where they speak about how, for example, jami'as in the past, how it worked. It was based upon waqf, basically, where a person would leave, like it is today, even same. For example, if you want to go, Muslims today, we have a dilemma. If you want to do university in the UK, you either take a student loan, which is impermissible because it's based upon riba, and get in debt. Everyone's going to get in debt anyway, but for Muslims, we have the dynamic of riba being attached to this debt. The debt in of itself isn't the issue, because debt is, you can borrow money, but you just can't borrow money with riba.
Yes.
And there's no debt in the UK except if it's with riba. So now you have a dilemma, which is the ghettoization of Muslims, because they can't go to university because they can't take loans because of the riba, not because of the debt.
Yes.
The debt is bad enough, £9,000 a year. That's quite a big debt, but that's okay. You can deal with it. After 3 years, it's not that much you can work and pay it back. Which is why they've called it a tax, a stealth tax, because a student will pay their normal tax on their wage plus another 5% for the rest of their life. They'll never pay it back, basically. Anyway, putting that aside. So we've got an issue. Okay, how will Muslims address that issue? Is the same area they need to focus on how to support students that are going to be here, educating Muslims to maintain their identity in the West. To maintain those that want to maintain their identity, have their knowledge. They're not going to make hijrah. They have someone that they can ask Islamic questions to, get fatwa for, and stuff like that. The same system that needs to be developed for those students needs to be developed for the to pay for
students' knowledge, etc.
Which is awqaf. So, for example, in the past, if you want to study some universities, there's a rich guy passed away. He's into aerodynamics, engineering, so he leaves a waqf, a trust, for 5 students every single year to go to, who's deserving of it, apply for a bursary. They get their fees paid for. That's waqf, basically a trust. And every year 5 students are going to get educated in that field, and he's going to get the reward for that thing. That needs to happen for students. That's one way of dealing with it.
Yes.
So they don't have to go somewhere else to work, basically. The other avenue, or the other way in which it can be looked at as well, is obviously they get a job, normal job. When I say normal job, I mean not in dawah. They need to earn a living. So as a teacher, so many of them get jobs as teachers, for example. So they get a PGC and get a teaching qualification, teaching in secondary school, for example. And that's their Monday to Friday where they're working, right? Teaching is obviously not great pay, but it's not worst pay, but it's a lot of hours. So you're not going to get them to be doing stuff in the evening, but they still got a weekend where they'll be able to do a lesson once a weekend or something on the weekend. So they re-qualify. So there's a fund for them to train into another profession, or digital, or something like IT. So they've got 9 to 5 where they do IT, and then they do their classes on the weekend, or you go. I mean, that's another option for students of knowledge or for du'at. But the problem with the second option is if they're busy working 38 hours a week or 40 hours a week in the net, how much more hours can they give to teaching
the community?
The community. They can't serve the community. A minister serves the community, and he's getting paid for serving the community, and he's getting all his expenses paid. He's getting paid good money, not to mention all the expenses, that all the benefits and the expenses, not just a salary. So there's that. So that's the second option. That's a possibility. Outside of those two, I really don't know anything else except brain drain, which is that there's better opportunities outside. Leave. And you see that. You find a lot of the students of knowledge, they come and give dawah in the summer. They're doing their stuff online, which is fine as well, in another country. And it's not, like I said, you can't, if anyone criticizes them, it's based upon ignorance, not based upon knowledge or understanding of the macro environment for people that are, their qualification is one where there's no job prospects in it.
Okay. So if we're going to agree, I think the consensus that the demand outstrips what the students of knowledge can actually give, if you get what I'm saying. Like, there's not enough time for you guys to answer the phone all the time, give lectures, give the khutbahs. There's just not enough time. So do we have to get into a situation where our students of knowledge have to be either on a full-time wage in order for them to give quality time? Because you might just say, well, okay, I'm tired, man. I'm not saying you would say, yeah, you're right, and put down the phone. Can you ask students of knowledge sometimes put under pressure of demand, and they say, well, okay, yeah, what would you do? We're just going to teach this book, not being able to give the true time to what the community needs because of being pulled left, right, and center. Can that happen, or do you think that can happen? Is there, you might say, a lazy curriculum, or we're just going to teach this book without putting thought into what is really needed due to the pressure being pulled left and right? Can that happen?
I mean, at all, or in UK?
In the UK environment, if we're going to say that, well, basically, there's not enough students of knowledge. People are expected to be available from 9 till 24 hours a day. We're not. People are overburdened. Can that lead to a lack of quality of service, for want of a better word? And unless we turn things around and putting a system in place, you're not going to be able to give your quality time, and the community is not going to get a quality service. I don't even want to use the word of service, but do you get what I'm saying? Unless there's a system in place, we're kind of cheating each other.
I
For
think.
want of a better word, if you get what I'm saying.
I mean, I don't know if this is even an answer to your question, but I think the approach as a whole is a bit too narrow. Meaning, just because someone has knowledge of the Sharia or the halal and the haram, doesn't mean he has to now do a specific job. I answer questions and deal with marital problems and whatnot. Meaning, he has knowledge,
yes,
of Islamic affairs, and there's so many ways in which he can use that.
Yes.
I mean, for example, having knowledge of the Sharia and being involved in the community and whatnot would definitely mean that you're more capable of dealing with or helping someone with their marital affairs if it needs some advice or direction. But maybe that's just not what he wants to do.
Got you. Is it easy for you to say no then?
But what I'm saying is that, but when I say doesn't want to do, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that du'at don't want to help people. That's not what I'm saying. But for example,
that's how people look at it, though. By the way,
that's what I'm saying. That's
how people look at it. Oh, he just don't want to help me.
Yeah,
you can help me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You're
Yeah,
gonna help me, but you're not helping me. You're sinful. I'm going to ask Allah about your Yawm al-Qiyamah.
Is that from experience of the Wahi? Is that from experience?
That's literally the point.
That's
literally the point because it's you basically. Let me give you an example. Yeah. I've had multiple encounters where someone's asked me a question, an honest question, and I know the question's not straightforward answer, so I'll ask a counter question, so I can dig a bit deeper. Does that make sense? So they might say something like, I'm trying to remember a question that this particular event I had, but someone asked me a question about can a woman, what happens if a woman's husband tells her to do something? And I would say, what's wrong with him asking you to do that? For example, because I want to know, because the question was asked generically. Yeah. I know for experience that although the question's phrased generically, it's very specific. They're not talking about something that just, it came into my head, this question, that something's happened. Either it's their situation they're in, or their family's situation they're in, or a friend's situation. They're asking about something specific, but they're coming to me generically. So I'd ask a counter question, so I can just dive a bit deeper, so I don't give the wrong answer. And then the response to that is, look, right, I'm the one asking questions here. So then I'm like, I'm doing you a favor. And say, treat me like I owe you something.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, basically my point is that what does happen, and it's not the majority of people, it's not most people, it is with some people. Just because you've studied knowledge, you're seen almost as if you are a public servant.
Yes.
That you have to do this. And it becomes taxing because I guess it taxing on an emotional level. It's almost like you just by studying knowledge, you've been stripped of your own agency. That makes sense.
Your hours, yeah.
You're stripped of your life.
You belong to us.
I can't decide how I answer this question. I must answer it the way you answer. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and that constant knock. It's almost like it's like a small knock. The way being asked a question aggressively, being told how you must answer a question, being told how you must behave, being told what you must do because I am here. I've come all this way. You must do. But these little things they serve to be small knocks that eventually lead to loud knocks, which eventually lead to what Abdullah just described as brain drain.
Yes.
Where you just get tired. It's like,
yes.
I mean,
this is the point. I'm saying that if in the future,
but I mentioned about the issue, what I mentioned earlier on, but I think we could maybe approach it differently.
Yeah.
where we could remove those knocks.
Mm.
Imagine if someone else who is not the actual one receiving the question, who they could take the question, wrap it in a nice bundle, in a nice bowl, present it in a way which is easy to just, get the answer, do the answer, and then deliver it backwards. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah.
I guess a bit like I mean, can you imagine? Let's give an example. Could you imagine a GP running the GP's office?
Yeah.
Also working at the reception. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Or for example, the GP's going home on the bus and you stopping me, said, "Oh, can you just check my liver for me?" Or I got a pain in my eye. Can you go my eye? And he's walking home. He's taking his family to the park.
Listen, have you noticed how doctors, they only see you in their room? So if they're walking down the corridor or going to the receptionist, try to stop them and talk to them. Try and ask them a question at that moment. And they're not gonna. They'll do their best to not even make eye contact with you, let alone stop and talk to you.
Yeah.
Because that time is not for that thing.
Yeah.
Right. The time for your question is, and like with MPs have surgery hours, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to speak to an MP, you go to his surgery hour. He won't answer his phone any minute, any time, and you shouldn't expect him to be on call for you because I'm gonna make this very clear. That everything outside of that hour or that surgery hour, that is ihsan. There's no obligation to do any of it, basically. Why? Because it's just reverse the role, isn't it? Right? Whatever your qualification is, okay, you're a teacher, okay, come teach my kids at this time. Okay, my kid's got a question. Let my kid just phone you up and ask you that question at that time, for example. No, it doesn't work like that. So half of it's to do with, for example, our own, i.e. the imam's not setting boundaries and not being good at management. Half of it is the expectations of the people. I mean, there's a lot of factors, if I'm going to be honest with you. It's hard just to say, but I think it all comes back down to the point of infrastructure and the fact that we live in i.e. the culture, the culture that we've already built up from the past.
Yes.
Right. The culture of imam being a person that's that culture, and there not being kind of any type of infrastructure that changes it. That once that changes, hopefully things will change and become more. And they are, to be honest with you, if it appears that way. But at the same time, what can you do? We're still kind of in a situation where it's let's say a job. Just use the word job for now. It's ibadah. It's not a work like that, but it is a job from one aspect, right?
Yes.
Where in the UK, in an un-Islamic country, it's not going to be valued because you're not a doctor, you're not a GP, you're not a. Do you get what I mean? So because of that, not putting outside recompense or being compensated, according to the years of an experience, forget that. Yeah. It's just not even valued. It's not even valued. Someone can come to you and ask you. I mean, I guess it might be the same with medicine as well. Some people go to the doctor and they say, "Doctor, I've got the symptoms, blah blah blah." Doctor tells them what to do. They say, "No, but what about this?" But they counter. Do you get what I mean? So I guess that does happen even in other professions as well. But again, it's. I think it's not.
But I think going forward.
So another thing that could help, in addition, is having. So remove some of the pressure instead of having one person that answers questions. You have one body. So you have a lejna where things go through. Right, and then it comes back after it's been studied. It gets given to one person instead of somebody else. And that person's like when it goes to the legend, there's an administration, there's management that knows everyone's schedule, knows who's on call there, who's off call there, who's available, who's unavailable, who's travelled, who's still in the country, right? And then they'll give it to the person who's free for that job at that time. You get what I mean? Like a GP surgery or like a. So there's a structure. So and that way you'll get that answer. We're talking about quality output. You should get a better quality output because it's not going to the person who's available to do it. And which is why the mashayikh you see on their WhatsApp sometimes it will be something like "Ana musafir" or "I'm traveling, I'm out the country" or something like that. In other words, don't call me, don't send me a WhatsApp, don't bother me because I'm now traveling, I'm now out the country, I'm now somewhere else. You know what I mean?
So to summarize what Abdulwahid is saying is that we're human too.
A lejna or a committee where there's an administrative part of it, for example, that could be another way, and they have access to calendars or diaries, or they know, for example, So, and then people clock in at set hours and clock out at set hours that they themselves give, right? They're the ones saying, okay, now they can see things are structured. Okay, I can give you this day at this week by these hours. So, for example, for myself at the college, for example, if anytime someone wants to come and see me, I always say the same day, the same times.
Okay.
If anyone comes at any other day, if they don't find me there, or if they phone and they don't get through to me, I don't feel bad. Why? Because everyone knows that on this day, between these times is when I'm available. Any other time, don't expect, even if I could be, I don't care if I'm sitting in the library, playing, taking paper clips and making something with paper clips.
No question.
I'm doing nothing. I'm doing nothing, sitting there staring at the wall. If you've come on just without an appointment, without phoning, without doing anything like that, and expecting me to stop anything I'm doing to give you 45 minutes, an hour to listen to what you want to say, then no, I'm not going to do that. Come respect the Wednesday and come on the Wednesday. If you can't, phone me on the Wednesday and talk to me on the phone on Wednesday. If you can't phone me or do that on the Wednesday, send a message. I cannot come on a Wednesday because of A, B, and C. Explain yourself, because if I'm going to give you a time outside of that time, it has to be justified.
Okay, otherwise, have you learned to do that? Because I don't think you was like that when you first came from Medina.
No, I've learned that lesson? Otherwise your door never stops knocking. Your phone never stops. Generally speaking, when I say never, I don't mean never. I mean at the most inconvenient of times. I get a phone call and I'm traveling with the family. I'm out shopping. Oh, have you got 5 minutes? What am I going to say? At that point, I wish I didn't pick up the phone. But it's just because it was a number that I don't know, and it might be something I don't. It's like, oh, Fulan gave me your number. Have you got 5 minutes? And at that point, I say, is it a question or a situation? Meaning, is it I prayed at this place like this? I want to know my prayer valid or not. In which case, that's literally 5 minutes.
It's all going to be long anyway.
Or a situation. If they say situation, I'll say, send me an email if you don't mind, and I'll try not to deal with it at that time. Right, or it depends. Sometimes you
can go.
The doubt, they say, "Oh, it won't be long," and then 45 minutes later, you're like,
long. I think one message that we must put across is that one, we have to respect our students of knowledge and teachers, their time, especially from the point of view that there aren't enough in the UK. There's not no system in place. Remunerations is an issue. Are we respecting them enough? Do we treat them like, obviously you said people are getting minimum wage when really, people are, near enough doctors and they've been in this field for how many years. So I think from a development point of view, the relationship has to improve with our students of knowledge if you want to get quality time from them. All right. So
I mean, just to touch on one word you just mentioned there, just a small point. And I think I just want to highlight this point because I don't want people to think that me or Abdul Wahid are moaning that we're not being paid. Trust me, we don't care about the money. Money is not the issue. But what I think is happening, and I'm sure Abdul Wahid would agree with me, is that as we're getting older, we are valuing our time a lot more. When we were younger, we had all the time in the world. We will give you the 40 minutes on the phone. We'll probably feel good that we just spent 40 minutes chatting about stuff. We're happy with the 40 minutes. But now we're getting older. I mean, I don't feel like I'm near to death. I mean, maybe tomorrow's my end. I don't know. But obviously, I'm not that old. I don't feel like literally my day. But for some reason, as I've been getting older and older and older, that 40 minutes is huge to me. And for me, I need to know that you value that 40 minutes. The only way I know there's many ways you can value that you can assess that value. If they're willing, for example, to come at a certain time, I know they value it. They're willing to come back at a time that's my convenient. I know that the issue is serious. For example, if I say to them, if this is to me, bro, I've got an issue. Okay, call me back on a Monday, and I'll chat to you. If they don't call back, I know it was important.
Yes.
Because if it was important, they would have made the time. I allocated a time that was convenient to me, and they would have made the time to come and I would chat to them. Or many times people come to me, bro, this particular coin here, can I invest in this coin on crypto thing? Can I do? I say, here's my website, make a booking.
Got you.
Trust me, I tell you for free of charge. Whatever they pay for that booking, it means nothing to me. But I want to know that it means something to them. That they actually value the time I'm giving them. If they're going to pay that, trust me, wallahi al-azim, anyone who's been a booking for me, I've given them way more hours than they've booked. They might book an hour and I'm there for that 2 hours chatting. I'll chat to them. Why? Because I know that they valued my time, that they were willing to part what was valued to them for that. You know what I'm saying? We're exchanging value. I know the money meant something to them, and I know my time means something to me. So I'm willing to part with my time because you're willing to part with your money. I don't need the money, but I want to know there's reciprocation and there's respect.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. It's respect that you respect my time. But whenever someone comes to me and they say, "Oh, bro, there's this thing here, and it can make lots of money and blah blah blah," especially the money one, the money question that gets that annoys me the most. You asking me how you can make money? You can't pay 50 quid.
And he's gonna make thousands.
True, Abdul man asking you about
Yeah,
investment.
100%.
Yeah, there's this business here in Kenya. There's a farm in Kenya. I can do this and import and blah blah blah. Can you ask me a question? Yeah, cool. How much we need to pay? Oh no, there's a payment, brother. Wait, there's not a payment. I mean, you're doing investment. You're doing business, yeah.
Yeah.
People pay big money for consultation. Go to lawyer, bro. Lawyers charge like £100 for the letter.
Yeah.
Not even a meeting. But you can't even. You want to ask if your business that you make money from is legitimate, and you're not willing to pay a small tiny fraction of that to get that answer. That means I know you don't even value what I'm saying to you. It's not important to me because I know for a fact if it was a legal matter, you'd pay the lawyer the money.
Yes.
That's what gets me the most. And I'll give you one final example, and this is like I said, these in my experience, these little knocks that demotivates, and you have to really fight the shaitan to try and pick yourself back up because it really does hit the nafs. One time I had madrasa in our center. It was a summer school, and we were charging X amount for the class. As you know, we have to pay teachers and rent and the rest of it. Mom, a person comes in, brother, I'm a single mother. Can you help out, please, brother? Brother, I got family and I really love the Quran. I want my kids to learn the Quran. Yeah, sister, that's fine. That's cool. I'll give you a discount, half price, just for you, blah, blah. Oh, brother, I'm so grateful, blah, blah. That's fine. That's fine. Again, because I'm not bothered. I'm happy that your kids are learning. I'm happy that that's happened. My girl leaves. 30 seconds later, she comes back into the room. Brother, what's going on in the other classroom? Oh, they're doing English and maths in there. Oh, how much is it? It's this month. Oh, can my kids join that as well? Yeah, of course you can. Here's the money. Bro, she never asked for a discount. She never negotiated. She just paid.
Yeah.
And they were more expensive than Quran class.
Yeah.
And I stood there, my mouth dropped. I thought
In the space of the same hour. In the same hour.
Struggling and you can't pay and blah blah blah. But now you got English. He just threw the money like that. It came out of hand. Bro, she couldn't pay me faster. That killed my heart. I was like, no way. If I was wicked, I was thinking, no discount for you anymore. I give that money back, pay full price, because it wasn't the money. I didn't care about the money, but it was that. Is that how much you valued the Quran that you're willing to go and tell me effectively lies that you can't afford it to get a discount, and then you come back throwing double the amount for English. So that really means you value the English more than the Quran. That hurts.
Yeah. And
I guess I'm a bit jaded. Maybe everyone probably is watching this probably think, wow, I was jaded, man. He's probably vexed. He's like an old grumpy kid. It's not that I'm just saying. It's just for me, it's not about the money. It's simply about do you respect the ilm? And I think that's why, looking back at when I was in Medina, I see that there was some ulama when they saw the hirs, and Abdullah probably witnessed to this. When you saw that you were a talib al-ilm, you were haris, you were excited about that you spent time. You went early in the masjid. As soon as the adhan for Asr, you were in the masjid, front row, ready with your books. So that as soon as Sheikh comes in, you pray your salah and then straight away front row. When they saw that, Sheikh gave you time. Why did he give you time? When you know that when others will come to you like, yeah, I'm busy. But when he gave you time, because he saw you respected the knowledge. He saw the love you had for it, and he gave you the knowledge because of the love you had for it.
Mm.
And I would say that Abdul is exactly the same. If he saw that you was, bruv, you were like every day you're memorizing your stuff, Abdul would give the time for free, majanan.
Yeah.
But it's just when you see people just not value the time. I think that's what I think that if I was to say if you said to me, well, if there's one thing you can do to fix the da'wah in the West, just one button you could press and it would be fixed, what would it be? I don't think it's anything. It won't be the organization.
Mm.
It wouldn't be the admin. It wouldn't be any of that. If I could press the button and give the knowledge, so give the people the love and respect for the knowledge it deserves, that would be it.
Okay.
If they could love it and respect it as it should be respected, that would be it. And I think all the problems we have would be solved because they love the knowledge, they would put the admin in. Because they love the knowledge, they'll do all what they can to make it facilitate and make it happen. But because they don't, they won't. They expect you to do it.
Do you know what? I think, on that point, the kind of value and, the amount of times I've seen the imam in the masjid or the qari in the masjid being treated, he's there to serve and he's serving happily, but then he's treated like he's the servant and the help. Basically, i.e., there's not they don't, for example, and you don't find that in. I'll be honest with you. If any of those same people in the same congregation, if the MP of their local constitute walked in the door, they will treat him with respect and value and importance and stuff like that. Oh, the mayor's come in. Oh, the mayor's here. Everyone's here. Or not even the mayor. Forget that. A celebrity. Oh, look, the celebrities there. Respect and value. Or, for example, a football respect and value and selfies and whatever. But then I'm telling you, but the imam comes in front of the whole congregation. Someone in the back's going to start shouting at him and raising their voice because of what? Because he's 5 minutes late and the guy's been sitting down for 5 minutes too long.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, i.e., there's the respect isn't there for that position or that post in the UK. And again, it's because I think myself personally, because it's the upbringing in the West is different to the upbringing in Muslim countries in terms of authority and respect and how, do you know what I mean? It's not there. The people that are looked up to and respected, they're not the imams. They're not. Their salary is not high enough to be respected. There's that aspect as well. He's just an imam. It's almost like they're saying this guy works at McDonald's. This guy is literally. There's that.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, they claim to have. You know what? It's like everyone claims to have the respect for example, knowledge but the reality is when you see the way, if you can see how they will speak to someone that, let's say, is representative of knowledge to some degree, not the knowledge, but representative of, either the imam that leads the salah, for example, prayer, he's memorized the whole Quran, right?
He's put time in. He's put time into this subject.
He's put time into it. He's put dedicated time. He still dedicates time into doing it. Then I'll be honest with you, a person should be shy to raise their voice at him publicly in front of other people, or raise a voice even privately, if I'm going to be honest with you, unless he's got emotionally issues with and he's trying to explain it. He should be shy to do that for two reasons. Number one, because of the position of that person, and number two, because of it for self-respect, his own self-respect, his own dignity, and what he's showing other people of respect. I think that's one aspect. The other aspect I want to speak about, which Mara was speaking about, which is as you get older, time becomes more valuable because it becomes more scarce. Basically, i.e., when you're young, you feel like you got all the time. You realize, hold on a minute, your 4,000 weeks is running out quickly. It's quicker than you imagined it would run out, right? If we say that life is 4,000 weeks, your time's running out quite quickly now. So I don't have the same amount of time as I had back then. So which is why you'll find, and it makes sense. It's only obvious that you start to say, hold on a minute, I need to cut back some of the things I'm doing. I can't be doing as many things as I was doing before because the time just isn't there really. Because time's running out, and you start to say, is that the best? Is that really the most beneficial way I can spend my time?
Nafsi, innit? It's about yourself now.
Yeah, in the sense of it's always been about yourself, but now it's really more about yourself in terms of your development and what's going to happen you know, in the next week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
Mm.
And the thing is, you know, that's just, you know, I guess it's just kind of how things work out as you get older. Also, you start to see things in a more mature light. You start to see things, you know, there's always that statement. What I would do differently, what advice I'd give to my 20-year-old me or to my 25-year-old. Why does that come when you're 50? Why? Because time's running out. You start to realize, hold on a minute, I wasted a lot of time. The only question is I would use time differently. I wouldn't use it the same way that I use it. That's all that's really saying. Do you get what I mean?
So question.
Speaking of time, can I
No, you
duck
can't.
out?
No. Listen, we just started. That was just the introduction, brother. Let's get to the meat of the thing. No, that was just the intro, brother. You're not getting away that quickly. Seriously. Anyway, so question now. We've got the introduction out the way, and I think we've contextualized that.
Are you weren't joking about introduction?
No, I wasn't joking. This is the juice. We're gonna get to the juicy bit now. So now you're back and you're putting time into this, into dawah and teaching and giving to the community. Now time is more valuable. Question: how would
Saturday nights live on YouTube?
Yeah, and you're here with me as well. Jazakallah khairan. This is overtime, bro. Just send me the check, brother. Send me the bill, bro. No problem. I'll pay you whatever you want.
We got more free time at Saturday nights like this.
Yes. Yes. So, question is, how has the community changed over these years? Is the main question. What have you seen from the aspect of development? Where are we winning and where are we losing? Have the questions changed that you've been getting over the years, or are they the same issues? What are the main issues were at the beginning of the dawah that are no longer there? So there's so many questions that I actually want to give you, but we're going to be here for another hour, it looks like. So just relax, Mario, just get comfortable. So my main question is, how have we developed over the last 20 years? And what issues have changed? What issues are you facing? I'll go to you, Mario.
I mean, I'm of the opinion that although we think things change a lot, they really haven't.
Okay.
Meaning that the problems that human beings face today are pretty much the same that human beings always have faced. Maybe in just a different form, a different shell. But they're pretty much the same. We all still have issues of marriages. We still have issues of business. We have issues of being unable to practice their deed in X country. We all have issues.
Yes.
I don't think it's changed that much. Names have changed, groups have changed, but the problem is still the same. So, for example, people always say to me, for example, you say, "Oh, my kids, they're exposed to all this nonsense at school, all this woke agenda at school. It's not. I want to take my kids to homeschooling." And I laugh. I said, "But wait, when I was younger, the problems were the same, still there, but it was evolution at the time. You remember that back in the day, everyone was concerned about evolution and they're teaching our kids evolution and what should I take my kids homeschooling?" And I'm like, why are you concerned about that now? We had issues of kufr and shirk from day one. It wasn't any different. It's just a different form. So I don't know. Yeah, the names have changed.
Yes.
The agenda has changed.
You don't think the issue that with the addition of the smartphone that has compounded the issue somewhat?
But it's still the same problem. It just happened faster or more loud. Or for example, misinformation. Let's take that topic of misinformation. Social media spreading false news, false narratives, false ideas. Allah mentions in the Quran about the Quraysh spreading false narratives and misinformation about the prophets, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or about the Anbiya before them. So misinformation has always been there.
Yes.
It's just the medium and the mode has changed. But the thing's always been there.
Yes.
And therefore, that's why what was taught to us at the time, Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is still applicable today. Because it's still the same. That's what I believe. I can't, unless you can show me something that is genuinely jadid, new, that you can't find in the past. I think.
Are you getting more of certain questions than other questions? Are people asking, what should I do about my children then? How can I deal with my kids are not praying, or my daughter's not wearing hijab, or my son's on drugs, or on the divorce from my wife? are there more questions and other questions, or is just like to you, it's just a blur because you're getting so many questions anyway?
To be honest, I don't really get those kind of questions much anymore anyway, because I've kind of distanced myself from that aspect of things.
Yes.
So I used to get a lot of. I used to have a platform on my website where I'll try to entertain these kind of conflict resolution and help people in marriage, that kind of stuff. But now I just say, look, people, even just the other day, sister comes to me on Instagram asking me a question about something to do with a husband, and some Sharia counsel said this, and she wants to know, is it right, and blah blah. I said, sister, look, if you've already gone to Sharia council and they've given you a ruling, and you're concerned about the ruling, then go back to them. Because I can't now go on involve myself in a case I have no knowledge about your case, but they do.
Yes.
And that's their job. So that's not my job. So what I tend to do now, back to what the advice my teacher gave me when I was graduating, and I said connect to other people. If someone comes to me with their emotional problems, I direct them to qualified people who that's their job.
Got you.
Because going to Madinah University taught me Islamic knowledge, but I'm not professionally trained to deal with emotional problems. I could give my advice, but it's better that I direct them towards a professional. Same likewise, someone comes to me with their marital problems, guaranteed, I reckon I could sit down on both sides and give advice, and I still do that if I find the time. But I also believe that there are people who are more qualified than myself, and I prefer to say, look, I know this organization here. This is their website. They
specialize in that issue.
They specialize in that. Do that. So me, I specialize, as you already know, in trying to help Muslims on a financial element, in terms of business, in terms of engaging in halal transactions, in terms of helping the Muslims want to apply Islam on a everyday level, not dealing with the emotional marriage issues or conflict stuff. I want to distance myself from the conflict stuff. I focus on development, the building, the entrepreneurship, that kind of stuff. So that's why a lot of questions I get now are in that, because I'm directed towards that. So I think that's what I was trying to get at earlier on by saying that there's more than one way to skin a cat. If you like sitting down with someone and giving someone emotional support and helping them, then I think that's good. And that's why I said we need to have more people who have to do more different things, so we can cover all areas. But I just don't believe that we all can do all the same thing, because then nothing will get done. There'll only be one thing done. No one else does anything else. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I mean, so as for that question, the community's changed. I don't believe that the community is changed much. I just think that our problems have just maybe taken different forms. I mean, I do remember clearly in the late 90s, early noughties, there was definitely a push with evolution in colleges. I don't know if everybody remembers, there was a lot of people coming out. There was the whole Osama Hassan fiasco, and evolution in the noughties was a big thing. That was the problem then. Now it's LGBT.
Nice chance. Yes.
So
there's always waves. There's always waves of problems.
There's waves of this and there's waves of that. There was a time when the waves was takfir and khuruj, and it's just different waves of different problems. And every time people come and they address it, it gets removed, and then it's something else.
Yes. I mean, that's good, because I'm always thinking that, you know, we're in a terrible situation. It's getting worse. We should all make hijrah. We're all going. You know what I'm saying? So if from your experience,
as I said, hijrah's always been there, though. That's what I'm saying. When I said at the beginning in the 90s, we were saying, yeah, we make hijrah because we had problems then as well.
Yes. What's your perspective, Abdul Wahid? What's your angle?
I think looking at, for example, one of the things Mario touched on, I think that really the only change is how quick and accessible things are. Not the problems that if we look at, for example, one of two things, it's either going to be doubts or desires, isn't it? Right? And it's either going to be a person getting stuck in desires or getting affected by doubts, right? But usually those doubts, they usually have to go out to find them. They have to go out their way to get them, right? Desires likewise as well. You usually have to take a bit more effort to get them. But now it's just become a bit less effort. It's more effortless to act on your desires or to find out about doubts because of, for example, like you mentioned yourself, the smartphone, right? It didn't exist. I just dial up. Even if you had access to internet in your house, Not everyone did, because it used to cost a lot. But just the dial-up, you had to wait forever. Just for a page to load, you had to wait forever. Well, now it's like instant 5G, right? So in other words, and data's 100 gigabytes or whatever of data on your plan and all this other stuff. So that's one issue, is that the speed at which you can access these things means that it seems like it's more prevalent, right? It seems like it's everywhere because everyone's got a phone and everyone's got access to it, and it's on social media. But at the same time, you also get the other aspect, which is the combating those things, which is all the the revival of traditionalism, for example. No, this is not normal. So you get the so you always, and that's always happened on a societal level as well, not just on a kind of individual family level. So I think it's just a case of it's just faster, as opposed to it's the same problem, but just it comes at a greater speed more than anything else. That's one aspect. I think the other thing which is important to look at your question, for example, is are Muslims winning or losing? In terms of development of Muslims, I think that it's a bit of both. And what I mean by that is that if you look, for example, at the amount of institutions and organizations and stuff like that now, nowadays it was just masajid and some Islamic schools, right? Now we have masajid, we have Islamic schools, we have institutes, then we've got, the same tech that's made things speeded up. It's also helped us in the sense that knowledge in the English language has become more prevalent.
Accessible,
you'll get knowledge on either basis. Do you get what I mean? On top of that, you've got other organizations like the National Zakat Fund. All these other different organizations to do with either a Zakat organization specifically. Before it was just masajid, humanitarian organizations, right? There's more now than that, right? There's a lot more there's more Sharia councils, right? The Sharia councils are more kind of like homebred, right? There's more. So there's a lot more that's going on as well. Dawah isn't just in masajid, for example, right? It's on YouTube. It's on. Do you get what I mean? It's on Twitter. It's on, for example, people are doing, video conferences like these, for example.
Yes.
Right? We've now got podcasts. It's not just a lecture. There's now dialogues. Even the Sheikh are doing podcasts, right? So there's conversation.
Do you think it's equaled it out? Then there's a certain amount of evil, but then also there's a certain amount of good that's come about.
Yeah. So there's a development. So there's winning, definitely, right?
Yeah.
There's definitely winning.
Institution-wise,
more of a greater variety of institutions, not just when I say not just, but in terms of number, not in terms of impact. Masajid were the other foundations. You've got humanitarian organizations, which I think they're problematic.
Sorry, say again.
Humanitarian organizations, I think they're problematic.
Okay.
Holistically.
One second, Sheikh Abdul Wahid. A thought came to my mind. I have to respect Sheikh Warrior's time, and I know he said he had to go, and I was a bit hard on him, like, no, you got to stay. I think so. No, that's not. I shouldn't be treating my ustad like that, my teacher. Sheikh, forgive me, Sheikh.
You're still out elder. You're still out elder. You're still out elder.
No. He's my Sheikh and my ustad, and I said to myself, how do I tell him to sit back down and carry on and stay with me till the end of till Fajr? Sheikh, if you have to go. I know you have a long time. If you have to go, Sheikh, your excuse, Sheikh. No problem. I'll just I will stay with Abdul Wahid until Fajr, inshallah. No
I apologize to anyone if I went too early. It's just that
no, I'm leaving. I'm leaving on the back of your bike.
No, you're with me,
brother.
We can continue. If it was early, that'd be fine. Just the night time is a bit rough. So
yeah, we're gonna do a part 2, inshallah.
Thanks for having me, inshallah.
Jafar and Sheikh Mohammed, forgive me for not appreciating your time. I was a bit rough with you.
We can do it monthly. What's it? The middle-aged guys doing it monthly.
Grumpy old men.
A monthly whinge and a moan about things aren't as good as they used to be.
Yeah. I'll give you guys a platform to moan in it about how the community is on your case and doing this to you and doing that to you. No problem, Sheikh. No problem. Okay, Sheikh, no worries. Let me wrap it up with Abdul Wahid, inshallah, and we'll catch you next month then. I'll book it in with you, yeah?
Inshallah. Assalamu
alaikum salam wa barakatuh. Well, Abdul Wahid, if we're gonna wrap up then, because I've taking a lot of your time. The point was concerning the balance, isn't it? So in some places we are winning. I want to give you a quick scenario, yeah?
Yeah.
So for example, in Croydon now,
Yeah.
there are basically 9 masajid on one road.
Yeah.
And they're building extensions and mashallah, there's, we'll say from one angle, there's development.
Yeah.
You can see more masajid. But that then doesn't mean that the front row in the Fajr is full. It doesn't mean that there's more people praying. It may just mean that on one particular day of Jummah, we need an extension to accommodate more Muslims in a particular area. But one thing, there's no joined up thinking, because amongst those 9 masajid, there's not one youth service.
I disagree.
I'm passing on Islam to our youth is a priority.
Yeah.
So if we can build these multi-million-pound buildings, why can't we? Where's the joined up thinking? Say, you know what, we need to actually establish a youth service within that particular area.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that kind of development that I think would help, because there's joined up thinking.
Yeah. Obviously, you know, when we was at ICT, we with Ibrahim Walker, we had the that he established with you mainly was the young companions that was aimed at the youth.
Yes.
So within the masajid, there are youth activities to a degree, but again, they're still very kind of insular in the sense that they don't cater for the community. They cater for the youth in that masjid. So that aspect, I think, though, looking at what I was mentioning before about there being more institutions that are not just masajid. What I did come across recently is a masajid football league, for example.
Yes.
So I think there's, for example, in Croydon, there might be 3 of the masajid in Croydon. Also,
they get together, yeah.
They get together with 4 other masajid in other areas of London, and they've got a football league that they play. So that's for young people, obviously, where they get to now, meet other Muslims in the other area, in the other masajid. So it becomes less. The masajid become, at least for the youth, less centered on a jaliyah or specific ethnicity, which is how they were a lot right in the past.
Yes.
In addition to that, you've got stuff like organizing. I can name names, but I don't want to start advertising places, right? Because I don't want people to say, well, you're advertising that. But for example, you've got investment institutes that help Muslims invest.
Yes.
Right? So you've got. I'm going to name the names just because I want to highlight that there's different institutions. This wasn't around in the past.
Yes.
That to show that there's a development, because I don't want people to be completely pessimistic. You've got, for example, Wahid Invest.
Wahid, yes.
Yeah, Islamic finance, right? So Sharia compliant investments, that wasn't around in the past. People weren't thinking about, how they're going to have money for when they're older.
Yes.
Right? You've also got, and they kind of work from Croydon all the way across like London, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that I found myself in the community, you've got, so for example, in South London, you've got a lot of entrepreneurs, like, obviously as Muslims, okay, what are we going to do in terms of money and finance? Okay, you're either going to go and work for somebody, which is fine. But again, what job is halal? This is the dynamics we're talking about in the UK. Can I work for a bank? No, you can't, because it's interest. Can I work for insurance companies? No, you can't, because it's insurance. Okay, that's maybe 10% of jobs in the UK in terms of the finance industry being a huge industry. Okay, well, can I go and work in, you can keep going, basically. So there's a lot of jobs where it becomes hard to, work for. And when we're speaking about low-skilled jobs or, so there's many jobs you can do. So, for example, an electrician, a carpenter,
trade jobs, trade.
Trade jobs, right? Builder. There's no issue there, but for some reason, people don't seem to see that as a career option. That's a mistake, in my opinion.
If you're self-employed, you can do well.
You can self-employed, you can do well. Even if you work for somebody else, your income's halal. It's going to have barakah in it, right? But a lot of the other jobs, you're going to look at, you're going to think, okay, well, there's a grey area there, at the least, if not completely impermissible, because of the chunk of it, right? But at the same time, you find a lot of kind of Muslim-owned businesses from within the community opening up.
Yes.
Because of that dynamic, they've realized, okay, I have to become self-employed or freelancer. Then there's opportunities for online stuff, like online businesses that people are developing, and Instagram businesses, stuff like that. So there's been a lot of development from that angle as well. So when, for example, Muslims develop, it shouldn't just be success or winning, shouldn't just be seen as, yeah, we've got, like, this is a point I think Mario kept on pushing, which he might not have, is that, but what does it look like? So, the Muslim community development success, it doesn't it's not solely connected to more students of knowledge and more colleges and more institutions of learning, right?
No, I think it's definitely two. I mean, my point is that
financial is important.
Personal development, like, are there more people in the Fajr Salah, more people praying, more people on the Sunnah, more hijab, more niqab? And then the second...
Go on.
I mean, the second, that would then, from that, there are more people who are going to get into Muslim-owned businesses, opening institutions. They're going to want to, support the community because they have that religious element, and it's growing, it's increasing. It means the knock-on effect is we're going to have a stronger community.
I see the second as an indication of the first.
Got you.
The fact that there's entrepreneurs and the fact that there's more success financially in the community shows that there's more, because that success, like I said, that those are people.
Takes a commitment, doesn't it?
Commitment, and they're doing it in a halal. This is my point. I.e., they're not, like I said, you've got jobs. You can go work in a bank, but it's going to be compromising your deen. You can go and work in, don't put insurance, but you're going to be compromising your deen. You can go on, but they're not doing that. You can go and take a student loan, but there's a level of compromise, right? So you find that they're choosing not to do that and choosing to find new ways of, and then they become entrepreneurs. They become self-employed. They become freelancers. They're doing online stuff. They're doing businesses. So their Muslim growth in that area, especially when it's not just properties or mortgages, which is based upon the loan and interest, that shows that there's a development, or the Muslims are winning. Do you get what I mean?
Yes.
Because the fact that they're doing that is because of their deen, right? As much as they're praying in the masjid. I'm of the view that
you're optimist. You're optimist.
Yeah, and also as well, just because the front row isn't packed, or the masjid isn't packed for Fajr in the UK, my concern would be if there's nobody in the masjid at Maghrib time, right? The time when there's no excuse not to be in the masjid because there's no work, because it's not very early and it's difficult to get there, for example. So people are, I expect most Muslims to be praying at home Fajr prayer. Why? Because masjid is a drive to get to, right? It's not necessarily get out of your house, there's a masjid there.
Yeah.
Like in a Muslim country. So I don't see the obligation of praying salah in the masajid like that. But if at Maghrib time, every day, you've only got one line, this now becomes an issue. Because at Maghrib time, there's no reason not to be in the masjid, generally speaking, because there's no work usually, right? And it's not too late that you can't, get out and come back and go. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And live close enough where you'd hear the adhan.
Yeah.
I mean, so Maghrib would be the standard there for me, where you say we're losing because Maghrib. Hold on a minute. There's 3 people for Maghrib Salah. What's going on?
Yes. What's the excuse?
Yeah, what's the excuse? But not for Fajr. As for and Jummah as well. If Muslims stop going to the Jummah in the UK, then that's a big issue. Yes. Even though, bear in mind, Jummah's on a Friday, which is usually a working day.
The masjid is still full.
The masjid is still full, right? So that's the Muslims' success. The fact that we're still having to build another masjid because there's not enough space is an indication of, a demand. Do you get what I mean?
Yes.
So I think holistically, Muslims are winning, but at what cost might be the question. Do you know what I mean? There's always going to be a level of, there's always going to be some trade-off at some point, right? For example, there's a trade-off in, ownership of houses, for example, right? So there's an impact there to some degree, which means they end up paying
more rent, kind of thing,
rent and stuff like that. So this, at what cost? That's the issue. But I think definitely, if we was to look in in terms of the growth of institutions which are not just masajid, then Muslims are definitely winning. And also the fact that these new kind of liberal movements, which are the woke culture, there's a fight back basically.
There's a response from the Muslims.
There's a response, and the response to a lot of the woke things were led by Muslims that gave people think, okay, why do we have to wait for non-Muslims to speak before? No, Muslims are the one that spoke first, and they gave everyone the impetus to start speaking. It was Muslims defending of
protesting outside schools and LGBT.
Exactly. We were the first ones doing that, generally speaking, right? Defending the Prophet every time there's been any type of liberal kind of woke. We can speak about whoever we want, whatever we want, whenever we want. And Muslims stand up. And now we have the UN. Majority of the countries voted for
the protection of the Quran, that you can't burn the Quran.
From burning because it incites violence. That's something which is common sense, but now it's turned into a law. Why? Because of the what's the word?
The response from the Muslims.
Basically, the backlash. That's it. Because of the backlash that happens every time something like that happens. If there's no backlash, that wouldn't have happened.
Yes.
You get what I mean? So it's because and the people that do the backlash are Muslims, right? Where and stuff like that, gay marriages and stuff like that. The church, they got split on that issue. They got stuck, right? Because they want to show that they can cater for everyone. They got stuck on that issue, right?
Yes.
Where it's clear. There's no ambiguity on these issues, right? It's a clear issue. Relationships, marriages are between a man and a woman because there's part of the objectives of marriage is to have children. Two men can't have children. Two women can't have children.
Yes.
Stuff like that. Do you get what I mean? So, these things, Islam is clear on it. So the backlash from Muslims is what gives strength in many ways too. So in those regards, Muslims are definitely winning. And I don't think, and I think it's not just, but again, the question is at what cost? I.e., there's a large number of Muslims that are impacted by their society.
Yes.
So they stop practicing. They don't pray all their prayers, for example, or they leave off a lot of the prayers. They leave off, for example, wearing hijab, even if they may dress modestly. They basically buckle under peer pressure.
Yes.
Right, which is the societal norms. That's going to happen. So. And again, that's not just, and to that degree, it's not even just it's in Western countries more than it is in Muslim countries, but it happens in Muslim countries as well.
Yes, but the trends, I mean, obviously it takes more analysis, more data, because obviously we say, okay, Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world, but do we also monitor those who are practicing, those who are praying, those who have left the deen, to actually know, well, okay, what's the reality in that we may have Muslims coming in, but how many Muslims are leaving?
Yeah.
That, I think that's an important point. But from the point of development, the fact that, do you think that the curriculum and how we're being taught is suitable for our current climate? You don't think it's anything to do with education, how it's being taught, how Islam is being represented? Do you think any of that needs to change in order to meet the challenges of the West?
No, I think that what I think with something that Mario alluded to earlier, which is the issues. There's nothing new.
New, got you.
Really new, right? It's either desires or doubts, and Islam answers all of those, right? So the message of Islam and the Quran or the Hadith, it resolves all the problems and provides solutions. The only thing that's needed is the ijtihad of the students of knowledge, and this was something you alluded to, needs to be there to get those answers and address those ayats to those specific problems, those ahadith to those specific problems. And that's where, for example, your message of quality and actually putting in the work and being able to have the time to do that level of research and reading to address these things, that's where the issue comes up. Where you need, for example, maybe a lejna, or people don't have the time, so they're unable to give the responses. And So you end up with people maybe addressing topics, but they're not addressing it
deeply.
deeply or correctly, or from an Islamic proper Islamic perspective. Right? It sounds Islamic, but the response isn't Islamic, right? Why? Because it's not upon addressing the specific problem with evidence from the Quran and Hadith. So you end up with clear rulings and principles of those issues. So you'll always find, for example, historically, it just takes a lot. It just takes more time. Right now, historically, any issue that came up, the scholars would address it and find the rulings for it and the response to it from the Quran and from the Sunnah. Right? So that's all that's missing, basically, if anything's missing. If anything's missing, it's just the ijtihad that's needed to answer, and we come with the specific answers to the problems that arise or that have arisen. For example, new problems, new issues, and then being in a position to distribute that knowledge. And that's where you require authority. For example, you require like a legend, an authoritative body.
Yes.
People say, okay, well, they've spoken or they've issued it and they're respected and they're appointed and they're known. Do you get what I mean?
Yes, Sheikh. I have a list of questions, okay? But you know what? We're going to go into a part 2.
Okay.
I think this is a long introduction to what I've got listed here. I know it's getting late.
Okay.
But I think the first section is very good in regards to giving your perspective as a student of knowledge and the pressure you guys are under and how things change due to the amount of time that you can put into the works. I think that's a very good point that we've dealt with today. I think part 2, we're going to go into the point of the tarbiyah of the Muslim in the West, things like purification of the soul, staying away from sins, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing in order to grow, you might say spiritually, and then preserve ourselves in order to earn Allah's mercy. So I think that will be, inshallah, part 2 of the Muslim development series. Are we winning or we're losing? Sheikh, Jazakallah for your time. I know I've stretched you and I've stretched you. Jazakallah for giving me your time. Inshallah, we'll buck up again and we'll sit down. Inshallah, we'll talk about Muslim development. Are we winning or are we losing? Sheikh, Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh.